As entrepreneurs, we all have a reason why we decided to leave our 9 to 5 for an 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. I'm here to capture those stories of why we all hustle and grind for our companies. For over 25 years, Greg has inspired millions of people to take personal responsibility, to step into the potential of their greatness, and as such, his life of contribution has been recognized by government leaders, a foreign princess, as well as luminaries in education, business, and industry. Mr. Reid has been published in over 150 books, including 38 bestsellers in 45 languages. Titles such as Stickability, The Power of Perseverance, The Millionaire Mentor, and 3 Feet from Gold, Turn Your Obstacles into Opportunities, have inspired countless readers to understand that the most valuable lessons we learn are also the easiest ones to apply. Greg Reid is known best for being founder of Secret Knock, a Forbes and Inc. magazine top-rated event focused on partnership, networking, and business development. He is the producer of the Oscar-qualified film Wishman, based on the creator of the Make-A-Wish Foundation, which is now streamed globally. For his work in mentoring youth in his hometown of San Diego, Mr. Reid was honored by the White House, where a former president commended Greg for his work for positively working with youth through a local mentorship program. And if that's not enough, recently Greg was awarded an honorary PhD in literature and a star on the infamous Las Vegas Walk of Stars. So I have to say today, man, I am so incredibly honored to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. You've been a friend and mentor for years. You have been probably one of the key people who have changed my life, like in so many significant ways, man. I'm just super honored. So thank you so much for being on here, man.
Well, that's a big shoe to fill. It's kind of interesting in this industry how sometimes you can have a conversation with somebody on the side and never know what those words can go on to impact your entire career or whatever. I don't know if I ever told you this, but I had an interview with one of my favorite guys when I wanted to be a public speaker. His
Mhm.
name is Les Brown. He's a motivational legend. He says, you got to be hungry. And I saw him at an event. And I said, give me one tip, just one thing I could do a little bit different to improve my speaking skills. And he did. I hunted him down a month later and said, Mr. Brown, I met you a month ago. I asked for a nugget. You gave it to me. Here's what I did. What should I do next? He was so shocked and that he ended up becoming one of my personal friends and allies and even baptized my son. But I'm going to teach you right now what he taught me. Are you ready?
Yeah.
He said, and you're going to go back and you're going to look at all this online, you're going to laugh. He said, when you're holding a microphone, he goes, you can tell a new speaker from a senior speaker by one tip. He says, a new speaker holds a microphone at the end and they talk like this, like these rappers you see on stage. And what's happening, they're hiding behind this mic. He says, what I do is I hold it at the very end and I hold it out here so people can hear me, but I can connect with the audience because I'm not blocking myself.
Huh.
So now go look at every picture of Les Brown. You'll notice he's holding the microphone just like this at the end. And
Huh.
that one little tip, one little thing completely transformed the way I started looking up the space.
That's amazing. And it makes sense. I mean, because I'm thinking back to all of the really good speakers that I know, and yep, they're you're not right in front of their face, and that totally makes sense. I love that, man. That's really cool. So I know I remember just kind of the tidbit that I got from you, like the one kind of changing thing. I can remember our first mentoring session. I was so nervous. I was really. I think I was talking at a million miles an hour. I think I actually explained to you the difference between a consultant and I had a whole thing like, or no, counsel versus opinion. And I explained it to you, not realizing that you were the one who said it. But you told me 2 books to read. You're like, you need to go and read Way of the Superior Male and No More Mr. Nice Guy.
Oh, yes.
Do you remember this? This was many years ago. And
Yes.
I
Yes.
have
And Robert Glover. I should get some type of royalties for all his many books that I've sold for that guy.
I have never felt so judged and understood at the same time by a book as I did with No More Mr. Nice Guy. It explained so many different things to me and really just started a massive, like 5-year self-improvement that has brought me way beyond where I ever thought I could be. So, man, yeah. Sometimes you just one book or one thing or one little piece of information really has an amazing amount of transformative power as it does.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
another good one for that one is The Ultimate Gift by Jim Stovall. That should be
Oh,
that's a gem. And then don't forget my latest one, personal development.
absolutely.
It's interesting. So for people that aren't familiar with what we're talking about,
Mhm.
Dr. Robert Glover wrote this book called No More Mr. Nice Guy. It's not about being a jerk. It's about setting boundaries as a male. And for some reason, over the last few generations, males have become people pleasing enterprises. And what's happening is ultimately a strong female counterpart would like their man to still have some masculine sense to them and to set some boundaries and to speak up for themselves and whatnot. And this book is basically a blueprint to show you exactly how to do it. The only challenge is when you're reading it, you go, how does this guy know inside my brain? Because
Yeah.
dissects exactly what we're thinking.
Yeah. And things that, I mean, my mother was a psychologist, so it's not like I didn't have people around who were able to spot these things, but just everything was dead on. Just because I was the people pleaser, I was the always trying to be Mr. Nice Guy is a coping mechanism. And it just called me on my BS every single way and really helped because I needed that at that point. So yeah. So I deeply appreciate you, man. Again, huge amount of respect for you. But what I really want to do, so this podcast is all about like why we do what we do. Like, we changed the intro says, we traded our 9 to 5 in for an 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. for a reason and for a passion behind that. So you have an amazing story and I love hearing it. I know it's published in a bunch of books. Why do you do what you do? Start
Well,
with that.
yeah, and it's so interesting why I did what I did. So, just
Yeah.
for people who are new to me, I've been publishing 150 books, 45 languages, got a star on the Walk of Fame for being an author. Yet I'm kind of transitioning out, and now this, in fact, is my last book. This is it. I'm done, and now I'm going to go into the publishing side to help other people. And the reason why I'm going to do that, because I might as well talk about the future, is
Yeah.
because I realize that I've already learned all the tricks of the trade that I can now pass that baton to other people and cut their learning curve by 10, 15 years. One of the very fortunate things I've done when I was making a movie, I got to hang out with Oscar winners and they taught me how to cut the curve. When I got into this space, I hung out with Sharon Lechter, who did Rich Dad Poor Dad, and all these amazing people, and the Napoleon Hill Foundation that helped me cut the curve. So what I like to do now is the next thing is help do this for other people. So for those watching and say, hey, I've got a book in me, how do I get a ghostwriter? How does this work? How do you create? Reach out to me. And I want to be the person that actually helps you do that and make it as seamlessly and painless as possible.
Absolutely. And I mean, again, you've published a ton of books. This is something you've done for many, many. How many years have you been publishing books? It's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, I've been in this business for 20 years now. And what's interesting is, as you know, I'm dyslexic. I can't spell very good. I can't read very well. But you work your strengths and you hire your weaknesses. So
Mhm.
I learned the power of surrounding myself with the most amazing, gifted ghostwriters and editors and designers. And I would sit there and say, a boy wants a bike. He gets off his backside. He mows lawns, makes money, buys a bike. And then my ghostwriters recraft it and says, it was a glorious Sunday afternoon when a young, bright eyed lad caught the entrepreneurial spirit, and they write it in the way that people would want to read it. And us working our strengths together have inspired the lives of millions of people.
Yeah. So you write the backbone and then have somebody put a polish on it, but it's still kind of, yeah, nice.
Yes, the backbone's
Love that.
a very, yeah, exactly. It's a very kind way of saying. It's so funny being dyslexic. I
Uh-huh.
read my own stuff and it's like dog, boat, beaver, car. Makes no sense. Right? But I know what it means. So when I get to sit down with my writers and say, this is what it is, they can craft it in a way that people want to, enjoy it.
So your version is more of an interpretive dance, whereas they can kind of go for
Yes. Jazz hands.
everything's better with jazz hands. So I know you're also you have an event that I always try to explain secret knock to people and they have no idea what that's just really hard to get the concept of what this is because we're always used to the big masterminds that come in and it's all about networking and how many sales can I close and all of this sort of thing. And the one reason there's a lot of reasons I love secret knock, but the major one is it's not that. It's all about your relationships. Talk to us a little more about that because you'll explain it better than I will. I've
Yeah,
tried.
well, it's funny. I don't know if you know the backstory, but there's a
No.
TV show on years ago called Seinfeld.
Okay.
And one episode was George Costanza opposite day, where he did everything opposite. He went and asked the pretty girl out. He applied for jobs he's underqualified for. And I said, well, what would that be like in our space? And every event had a flyer and a little bubble head, and it shows all the speakers and what you'll learn. I said, what if we did an event where we don't tell anyone where it is, who will be there, and it costs a lot of money, and we won't tell you anything. And we set expectations very low. And by doing that, we're very attractive to people that really wanted to come and enjoy the sphere of influence. And then we had to over deliver and bring the most amazing people, obviously, so they tell their friends. So it's been 18 years, sold out, standing room only. And again, that's the way it's done. On the same note, we get to have private Skype with Edward Snowden while he's hiding in Russia. President Vicente Fox comes in and says, here's how George Bush tried to trick me to go to war in Iraq. We've had everyone from the most controversial people like Carol Baskin from the Tiger King, all the way down to visionaries who have started companies like, Ugg Boots or Pictionary or astronauts that walked in space. And if you surround yourself with these amazing people and you get firsthand direct information, not off CNN, but direct information, it changed the way you look at things.
Exactly. And I think that's what you said is surround yourself. And that's, I think, the key parts of this is surrounding yourself with people that are way beyond like where you're at and these amazing superstars. I think, the founder of Activision was there one year. We had Gary Busey. There's a whole bunch of folks that, I've met at Secret Knock. And I think that's one thing you're really good at, though, is bringing these people together. No pretense, no ego. Let's just go out and kind of be chill. Let's go be cool, do our thing. Right.
Yeah, that's a whole idea. I forgot about Activision. That's Tommy Tellerico. Yeah, he was amazing. And Gary Busey, for those of you, we brought Gary Busey on stage and did a live brain map of his head to see exactly how that thing operates. And if you can surround yourself with these people to find out, look under the hood, so to speak, and kick the tires, it's a different perspective, right?
Yeah, it truly is. And it set my bar higher because I never would have thought I would ever meet Brian Smith, the founder of Ugg Boots, or ever be able to hang around with people like that. Once I did, my entire perception of the world was different. And that's why for me, I think that being your network is truly your net worth, and being around those folks just by proxy forces you to set your bar higher.
I agree. All right. What's the next topic?
What's the next topic there? So besides Secret Knock, I know you've got, your book, 3 Feet from Gold, went through kind of some of your backstory a little bit. What do we got going? What did you do? Like going around to everyone.
So for those of, again, they're kind of new to the work. In 1908, a million years ago, a guy named Napoleon Hill was gifted this letter of introduction by a guy named Andrew Carnegie to go meet his friends, and wrote the first ever formula for success called Think and Grow Rich. 100 years later to the date, the Napoleon Hill surviving grandkids and the foundation that bears his name gave me a similar letter and sent me on my way. And the first book we did was called 3 Feet from Gold, and literally has gone to be translated in like 40 some odd languages. Then we did Stickability, Thoughts Are Things with Bob Proctor, all these amazing projects. And like I said, it's all an accumulation of these amazing human beings that we've met along life's journey. And then the cool people we met, those are the people we invite to our events so that we can introduce them to our friends as well. But like I said, my swan song is right here. It's called personal development. Isn't that funny? It's a whole genre. You go to Barnes and Noble, but no one ever wrote the book. So I did. I even left my name off of it because it's all about the content. And what I did is I took a synopsis of all the greatest personal development messages from Aristotle to Socrates to Zig Ziglar and Tony Robbins. And we reduced it to the most simplistic terms so that every person can read a paragraph and understand what it is. I'll give you an example. You take a 300-page book like As a Man Thinketh, and we sit there and reduce it and say, As a Man Thinketh is a story and a journey about what you think about becomes your reality by the actions in which we take. It's not about the association you hang out with as much as the actions in which you acted upon. There's a saying that says, show me your friends, I'll show you your life. More importantly, show me where you're at, I'll show you exactly what you're thinking. And so that's what we do is we reduce an entire book down to a paragraph. Same thing with every single one of the greatest personal development projects. So you can get a synopsis of it and go read more. But anyway, boom, personal development.
I love it. And the one thing I love about the style of writing that you use is it's very storytelling. It is in small bite-sized chunks. And so it's not like having to sit down, like you said, read a 300-page book. It's more, what specific actionable item do I have right now that I can take away? And that's really what I appreciate a lot about your books, man. So yeah, awesome. Cool. So I always sort of ask people in the podcast, as we wind down a bit, that what is one book or podcast that you think everyone needs to read. I'm going to take a wild guess at what that might be. But yeah, anything that's really affected your life very significantly, like we told you earlier in the thing, where it was, No More Mr. Nice Guy for me. Was there one specific book that you read that was just like, this is completely changed the trajectory of my life?
Yeah. So again, I'd say The Ultimate Gift by Jim Stovall is what started me on a journey where I really understood the power of parable. And that's where you tell a story within a story. And then all the Ken Blanchard, the classic books, and
Yeah.
Fish, Who Moved My Cheese, and all that good stuff, I think are very powerful and effective for me because, again, I love a story within a story. And then a podcast I recommend is Jordan is My Lawyer. Unbiased. It's just one of the greatest podcasts out there, along with Joe Rogan, obviously. But if anyone ever gets a chance to listen to Unbiased, I'm telling you, it's pretty phenomenal.
Awesome, man. Perfect. And I'll make sure to put those in description so that you guys will have access to them. Man, I am so incredibly happy to have you on the podcast today. I'm really, really honored to have you here, sir. And again, thank you so much. Appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. Before we close, though, I want to share one
Sure.
message from this because I think you're going to like this.
Sure.
Because one of the greatest interviews and people I've ever had a chance to sit and eavesdrop on is a guy named Tyler Perry. He's a
Mhm.
big movie mogul and whatnot. And I don't know about you, but how many times have we wanted to take other people along with our journey, but they didn't get it? And it's almost
Yeah.
like we want more success for them than they want for themselves. And
Yeah.
in an interview, here's what he said: stop trying to drag people up the mountainside. He said, most people cannot breathe at 15,000 feet, and you're only going to kill them. He said the secret is to pull them up to a plateau where the air is thin that they can handle. And then what you do is you leave them behind and you keep climbing so they can acclimate. And then it's up to them whether they continue the journey or they go back down. He goes, but stop trying to drag people up with you that aren't ready to go for that quest.
That is very wise. I know I can see a bunch of applications for that and a bunch of parts in my life where that is applicable. So
I know.
awesome,
Isn't
brother.
it crazy? Well, anyway, thanks for having me on. You're a champion, and I'll talk to you soon, amigo.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thanks again for joining us on the Hustle and Grind podcast. If you'd like to learn more about Greg, check out the links in the description.